perdiendo entre las sombras, desvaneciendo. Siempre otro despedir, a veces más lento, demasiado rápido para mí.
Good morning and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I'm your host, Blind Run, and today we have a new camera angle. Yes, I'm trying to basically, since we're sitting down, change things up and angle it all out properly. That being said, this boom arm's in the way and I'm not super satisfied with it quite yet, but we'll get there as we get through it and get going. Today we're going to be talking about the end of Texas Bitcoin mining and of course all the things going on with the power costs surrounding Bitcoin mining and everything going on in Texas with that. We're also going to be talking about the AVAX problem going on, where we basically saw Avalanche weaponizing litigation against rivals, not dissimilar to what was happening with BitBoy Crypto and I guess a Tonzi or a Tonzi or whatever his name was. We covered that last night on the Twitch channel over at twitch.tv/blindrun. If you're interested, you can follow over there for additional content. Crypto.com's lawsuit against the Van Man Nogari Maneval. So anyways, there's a lawsuit basically to a user of crypto.com where they had refunded that user $10 million or something along those lines, and they're trying to get their money back. It's kind of a funny case, and of course we're going to cover it. And yes, they are a sponsor of the channel. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the merge. We're going to get the wrap up on the merge and kind of what you can expect for the timeline on that. And last night, AMD had an awesome announcement of their 7000 series CPUs. So we will be talking about the 7000 series CPUs as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in today. Let's get into all of that and more after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. And welcome back everybody. So first things first, there is some new information on the horizon surrounding basically AMD GPUs on Flux. Now this is exciting stuff because as we've been talking about, there's not a lot of things to move off of for AMD. And so if they're stuck on, of course, Ethereum right now, moving to other algorithms is going to be more difficult if you are running AMD GPUs. And so getting another option out there is awesome. This is coming from LOL Miner. And we got a screenshot here from the official Flux Twitter. And we have a screenshot basically of LOL Miner version 1.55 beta. And it's actually running a RX 6800 showing 61 to about 62 mega solutions per second. This is pretty awesome stuff. I mean, if we went to what to mine, for example, and hit a 6800, it would put us at 55 hash a second over here is what it's showing. So, you know, getting some more hash out of here. Of course, they're claiming about 20% hash rate increase. From what we can see, it's about 7 solutions a second. Getting better and better as we move on. So thanks to LOL Miner and the developers over there for getting to work on that. Problem here, obviously, elephant in the room. 6000 series is not something that is widely deployed right now. So, you know, seeing it being tested on a 6800 is like, okay, that's cool, but you know, that's a special case because the 6000 series has some more core clock to play with than, say, a 5000 series, or going back even further to like Polaris GPUs. So I'm not really necessarily sure that this is going to be the best, you know, improvement for the bulk majority of GPUs that are on the network, right? So if we went to our Hive statistics, let me see if I can find it here, and I'll show you guys why I say this. If we look at what AMD GPUs are on the networks right now, you can see 31% is going to be the Polaris GPUs. These are the ones we're worried about. Where are they going to move to? Are they just stuck with Ethereum Classic? Another 10% is basically the same GPU, right? So 41% of all AMD GPUs are that. And then the next big bulk of it, 8%, is going to be the 5700 series, which is a bulk of my farm. And definitely needs some support for that. Going down the line, though, we do start to get into the 6000 series, so it will be a nice welcoming for the people that are running that. But a bulk majority here is the Polaris GPUs. Still have that big pending question of what's going to happen with all of the Polaris GPUs at the end of the day post-merge, because there's not much else that they're good on. Do they all end up, you know, mining Ethereum Classic with all the ASICs? Is that where they end up? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But moving on from there, AMD did launch, or not launch, but announced the launch for the Ryzen 7000 series CPUs. We have basically official specifications now. They are looking super awesome as far as from a mining perspective as well, because we are getting more cash. So let's go ahead and hop into this. This is on videocards.net. And as you guys can see, or .com, excuse me. As you guys can see, we have the 7950X, the 7900X, 7700, and the 7600X. And up here at the top of the line, the 7950X coming in at 80 megabytes of cache. So if we compare that to the 5950X, it's quite a bit more, because the L2 cache was 8 megabytes and the L3 cache was 64 megabytes, meaning that you ended up with 72 megabytes of cache on the top end 5950X. So scale that out, you know, basically another 10%, and grab yourself 80 megabytes of cache. I'm not sure exactly how much of that's going to be L3 and L2. I would assume it's probably around the same comparison, but you know, 80 megabytes of cache on that model is going to be awesome. Even the 7900X has more cache than the 5950X. So from a mining perspective, you know, things like Raptorium, I mean, even Monero, stuff like that, obviously they benefit from the cache. Seeing more cache is going to be awesome on these. Unfortunately, you know, it's not huge improvements to the amount of cache on these things. It's not like the, you know, that we're getting like double or triple the amount of cache. So unfortunately, you know, really realistically from a mining perspective, you're going to be seeing, you know, anywhere from a 10 to 15% bump, provided, you know, the core clock doesn't take away and add a bunch of improvement as well, because the core clocks now are going up to 5.7 gigahertz at the top end. And even at the bottom end on the 7600X, they're going up to 5.3 gigahertz. And that can add definitely performance improvements for mining as well. So that's good to see. The question I had, of course, is, you know, is that all core? Because we're seeing up to 5.7 gigahertz, you know, but is that all core? We're not sure, right? That's not really something that appeared to have been announced as far as if it's all core or just single threaded. So from there, you know, we have a 13% IPC uplift over the predecessors and 29% higher single threaded performance. This is mainly from the higher clock speeds now going up to 5.7 gigahertz, which makes me think that it is single threaded 5.7 gigahertz. I don't think that you'll see that across all cores. That's the way I read it, and I kind of interpret it. However, when I was reading other tech tubers and stuff, they were asking this question because it did seem to be vague as far as like what it applies across. Like I said, in my humble opinion, it seems like that's going to be single threaded. So there's your new CPU launches that'll be coming out, and that will be September 27th for the launch. So hopefully we'll get some in over here on the Son of a Tech side and get some testing going. Of course, $700 in a bear market is a ton of money, and I got to pay rent, so I don't know if I'll be able to. Hopefully I'll be able to grab some, or at least one somewhere for testing to give you guys an idea of how well these new CPUs are going to perform from the mining perspective. Now, Crypto.com's lawsuit against the Nogari Manivel, explaining a $10.5 million mistake. With exploration and expansion in mind, Crypto.com veered into several markets this year despite the onset of the bears. The platform managed legally set up businesses in various parts of the world. While everything seemed to be moving smoothly for the crypto exchange, news about its $10 million mishap took the front stage. Back in May of 2021, Crypto.com accidentally transferred a whopping $10.5 million to a Melbourne woman who sought a mere $100 refund. The Nogari Manivel did not report the mishap and went on to spend the money. Purchase a luxury 5-bedroom house. This house reportedly entailed a home gym as well as a cinema, and the purchase was made back in February. Surprisingly, Crypto.com had no clue about its mistake for a period of 7 months. The firm went on to realize that it was short $10 million during its audit before Christmas. On the 7th of February, the firm went on to issue a freezing order against the woman's bank account. In the meantime, Manivel began moving some of her $10 million in funds. While she sent $430,000 to her daughter, she went on to transfer the house registration to her sister. And what exactly happened between her and Crypto.com after the $10.5 million mistake? Well, reports have revealed that both Manivel and her sister were being sued by Crypto.com for the $10.5 million. The case was filed in the Victorian Supreme Court, and its commercial division heard the case back in May. However, the judgment was recently made available. Gangadori reportedly did not turn up in court. Justice Elliott, who is overseeing the case, wrote about the same references to the fact of this case based on such uncontested evidence are necessarily open to challenge if Gangadori ever seeks to set aside the default judgment. Since she did not respond to the court or appear in it, the judge said, since she has not responded to any of the correspondence from Crypto.com solicitors, and that the effect of not filing an appearance is that the allegations in the statement of claim are taken to be admitted. Additionally, it was noted that both Manivel and Gangadori were seeking legal assistance. This year, an array of platforms encountered immense loss, while some succumbed to their hacks and attacks. A few others were dragged down by the bears. Crypto.com, however, seems to have driven itself into a $10.5 million loss. Obviously, this is a little comical because, typically you see exchange mistakes go in the opposite direction, where an exchange makes a mistake and the users lose the money, right? And you end up in a position where we talk about, not your keys, not your crypto, securing your crypto, your own crypto, holding it off of an exchange, whatever. In this particular case, it's kind of the reverse, where the crypto exchange made the mistake of accidentally refunding somebody way more than they requested on the refund, and then not even realizing it for 7 months, which is absolutely insane that actually happened. Their auditing process, I think, needs to be a little bit better. You would think that they would have some better automation in the background that would be looking for mistakes like this. Obviously, this is a big deal, but it does go to show, at the end of the day, You know, even as Crypto.com is a sponsor of the channel and we do utilize their Crypto.com Visa card to pay all of our cryptocurrency expenses, mining expenses, like of course rent over at the farm and of course the power bill, which I find that to be the easiest way to liquidate my cryptocurrency to do that. That being said, all cryptocurrency exchanges have the potential for mistakes. And that's really what this shows at the end of the day from my perspective. And because of that, you need to make sure that you're securing your crypto in a manner where you have control of the keys. At the end of the day, that's pretty much where you're at, because this mistake could very well go the opposite direction and they could lose users' funds. And then you're in a pretty big pickle. Now, what should Mandeville have done? Well, use Tornado Cash, of course. Just kidding, but it is kind of funny that they're just not responding and holding on to the $10.5 million. I mean, if you woke up with $10.5 million in your Crypto.com account, you know, especially at times like this when the chips are down as they were for the average person, you know, running into $10.5 million probably feels super awesome. But then again, you know, it's not yours. Eventually, you're going to have to pay the piper. Just return the money, I think, is pretty much where it's at. And be like, hey, you guys made a mistake. Also, would you mind, you know, giving me a little kickback, you know, maybe $100K. Maybe just help me pay off some of these credit card bills. They're really killing me. Some of these medical bills, you know, maybe just throw me a bone. Help me get those paid off. I was nice. I returned the money, you know, that sort of thing. Anyways, that's kind of the whole story there. We have more stuff going on. Crypto coin AVAX drops 11% after self-described whistleblower says Avalanche weaponized litigation against rivals. Now this one's pretty crazy. All right. So, Ava Labs CEO rejected the accusation as conspiracy theory nonsense. The AVAX token dropped to its lowest price since July 13th on Monday after a self-described whistleblower website accused Ava Labs, the company behind the Avalanche blockchain, paid lawyers to hurt competitors and keep regulators at bay. On Friday, CryptoLeaks, a self-proclaimed whistleblower, published a report saying that some years ago, New York-based Ava Labs focused on developing Avalanche's ecosystem, and law firm Roach Friedman made a deal under which Friedman would collect confidential information on rival companies and trap them under class action lawsuits in return for massive amounts of AVAX tokens and Ava Labs corporate stock. The report said, "We can reveal that the pact directs Roach Friedman and their leader, Kyle Roach, to one, use the American legal system, gangster style, to attack and harm crypto organizations and projects that might compete with Ava Labs or Avalanche in some way. To sue crypto industry actors, generally with the aim of creating magnets for regulators such as the SEC and CFTC that distract them from the highly commercial nature of Ava Labs and Avalanche blockchain. And 3, securely pursue Emin Gun Sirer's personal vendettas against individuals." This is absolutely nuts, guys. Basically, you know, we've seen this, I guess, a lot more of this type of stuff is like coming to light too, right? Like we see what BitBoy does to silence other content creators, obviously pulling off litigation against them, which is just despicable. And then obviously this is common practice, you know, in the background of crypto, where we basically are seeing the antiquated legal system, you know, that being used against and weaponized against smaller companies and smaller actors within cryptocurrency. I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, I just hope that cryptocurrency gets rid of all this stuff. This is the kind of stuff that you want to see go away. I realize, like, you know, to a certain extent, this is going to exist throughout, you know, all of history, and it will continue to, right? But to a certain extent, I hope like it gets reduced, right? So Ava Labs founder and CEO dismissed the piece as conspiracy theory nonsense. The report, however, has caught the eye of industry bigwigs, with some in the investor community calling the report disturbing, while others wondering whether both parties will now face legal scrutiny for a perverse incentive relationship. Meanwhile, in a now deleted tweet, Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao called the report wild, assuming the legitimacy of the evidence videos published by Crypto Leaks. Zhao said Binance was the target, even though the centralized exchange isn't a direct competitor of Avalanche. Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple Labs, wrote on Twitter Monday that he had never met or spoken to, much less invested in, Kyle Roach, in response to a claim in the Crypto Leaks article that Garlinghouse had done so. So he says he can't comment on the validity of the slew of allegations in here, but he can, oh, I hate it when that happens, but he can unequivocally say that he has never met or spoken to Kyle Roach. So some of the allegations that are coming out in the leaks apparently surrounding this, the people are coming out and saying, no, that didn't really ever happen. Avalanche gained prominence with other layer 1 blockchains last year thanks to high transaction costs on the Ethereum blockchain. AVAX surging a whopping 3,300% in 2021, hitting record highs of above $140. The token peaked with broader market in November as the U.S. Federal Reserve shifted focus to inflation control and monetary tightening. Since then, the cryptocurrency market valuation has declined from $3 trillion to less than $1 trillion. Bitcoin, the leading cryptocurrency by market value, fell below $20,000 earlier Monday, having reached a record high of $69,000 in November. So I don't know how much of this is actually true. You know, when we talk about this sort of thing, we have to be very careful, I think, because we have to take into consideration that these are allegations. These aren't necessarily things that are proven. So we have to sit by and wait and see what's going on. But I wanted to bring it to y'all's attention because the difference between something like Bitcoin and AVAX, right? And I think that's really where we really want to take this, is the difference between something like Bitcoin and AVAX and the importance of that. Where Bitcoin doesn't have, you know, a company surrounding it. It doesn't have VCs invested in it. It doesn't have, you know, basically the problem of human error, right? That is pretty much what sets Bitcoin apart from pretty much every other cryptocurrency in existence outside of potentially Dogecoin, which is weird. And we could talk about that in a completely different video. But other than, you know, Dogecoin, which has that kind of weird similarity, no other cryptocurrency has just, you know, basically been given to the people and basically out in the public like that. And when you don't have that kind of that Bitcoin effect of basically having no leader, being leaderless, not having a group of people controlling it, when you don't have that effect, you have stuff like this happen, right? And whether or not this is even true or not, the fact is what it does is it exposes that particular difference between Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrency industry that I think is important to take into account. I mean, we can see it with, you know, things like Ethereum. It's very clear that Ethereum doesn't actually go by the decisions of what the people want necessarily all the time, but it goes by what the developers want, the people that are in control of it. And that is completely antithetical to, of course, the principles of cryptocurrency at the end of the day, if we really want to adhere to those as much as possible. Now, we talked about the stabilization of the grid in Texas, thanks to Bitcoin mining. And there is basically a new kind of approach to it, basically talking about how Texas Bitcoin mining is experiencing the end of the gold rush. And we did cover this yesterday on my Twitch channel, which we'll be streaming over there again today if you guys want to go check that out. But it's very interesting because it really doesn't sound as doom and gloom as the title really wants you to think it does. So hold on to your hats there. The new era for mining in the state might look more like a slog than a boom, but it could also be better for the electric grid. So it's all over the place, right? They're like, oh, it's bad, but it's also good, but it's also bad. And this is kind of the way they write these articles to get you to click on them. So what's actually happening though? Texas was once a promised land for Bitcoin miners, a business-friendly state with stable regulations and seemingly endless energy supply, but the tide has turned. The state's grid operator, ERCOT, which is the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, has slowed issuance of new permits for miners to connect to the grid, said Steve Kinnard, director of Bitcoin mining analytics at the Texas Blockchain Council, an industry association. ERCOT is trying to balance the state's demand and supply of electricity. Meanwhile, the pipeline of readily available electricity in Texas has run dry, and Bitcoin miners increasingly have to build out energy infrastructure, such as generators and power lines, for their machines to be plugged in. That build out will take a while. It's kind of expected though. So we've talked about this before. What's the importance of Bitcoin's relation to energy and the energy companies and even ERCOT here in Texas, and what can they do? Well, they need to invest in the actual power and infrastructure themselves. And once they do that, that helps bolster, of course, the electric grid for whatever state they're in or even country, if depending on like if that state connects to the rest of the country. In the case of Texas, it doesn't, it's independent. So yes, you are going to have a slower time once you hit that capacity, right? So what's happening is in Texas is that we've hit capacity, and now the actual miners are having to help invest into new infrastructure to actually install more miners. This is kind of obviously a positive, because this means that's where the money can come flow into. Hard part, of course, is we're in the middle of a bear market, meaning that a lot of these mining companies do not have the capital. So they maybe have the machines pre-ordered, but they don't have the capital to do the power. You should always try to do the power first, the machines second. And that's really what we've learned from a lot of different Bitcoin miners this particular cycle. So from the bull run to now, the miners that are doing well were the ones that actually invested in infrastructure first during the bull run, and then started investing in miners during the bear market. Why is that? Well, because before it was cheaper to build out the infrastructure during the bull run, and now it's cheaper to buy the miners during the bear market. So it works out better to focus on power first during a bull run, and during a bear market, focus on purchasing equipment. That's at least how I see it. So there are very few or no sites where you're going to just show up and plug in without any work. Even for smaller sites that consume around 10 megawatts, Kinnard said. A lot of people have searched for that, and now there are none left, he said. ERCOT noted the large number of miners waiting to plug into the grid and referred CoinDesk to the TBC. These challenges have come at an inopportune time. Crypto miners have been struggling as the price of Bitcoin has slumped over the summer, reducing the miners' profits and forcing some to sell their mined tokens to cover operating costs. So, a slowdown in permitting has felt like a broken promise to some firms. While many companies were successful in building out large-scale operations in Texas, some companies did not get as much power as they initially expected, leaving them in a tough position, said Ethan Vera, chief economist and chief operating officer at mining services firm Luxor Technologies. We continue to see fire sales of transformers, PDUs, and other equipment that the mining farms can't use due to power constraints, Vera said. Obviously, this can be pretty good if you are looking at purchasing equipment during the bear market. Things like being able to pick up additional PDUs is pretty nice, especially if they're getting sold off on the cheap from big firms that no longer can actually install all of the expected equipment. Chinese mining pool, Poolin, was planning a 600 megawatt site in West Texas in partnership with mining rig maker Bitmain. The first phase of the site, with a power capacity of 100 megawatts, has been energized, meaning electricity is flowing to the mining machines, but the rest is on hold, Poulin hinted. The company feels fortunate to have managed to energize that portion of the Bitcoin mine, a spokesperson said, but until the situation changes, the firm will be forced to adapt its operations and look for new sites to compensate for the delay in power, the spokesperson told CoinDesk. Poulin had to lay off part of its team in Texas, according to a former employee who was among those laid off. At least 3 other people left the company's Texas office in June and July, according to LinkedIn profiles reviewed by CoinDesk. Other miners with big plans in Texas are Riot Blockchain, Core Scientific, US Bitcoin Corp, and Genesis Mining. Some of the projects have already had their interconnections approved. In March, ERCOT's Large Flexible Load Task Force, LFLTF, which manages large loads on the grid, including those for crypto miners, announced an interim process for large energy consumers to connect to the grid, while the task force figures out how to manage these flexible loads. ERCOT requires large consumers of energy to register and get approval from authorities before they can connect to the grid, which likely slows down the process of booting up, according to Texas law firm Vinson and Elkis. Fewer projects have been able to energize per month since the process was established, Kinnard said. The approval process is a prudent measure to ensure grid stability until the LFLTF completes its work. And that is a Houston-based data center power management firm, Lancium. Lancium helped the task force draft some of its white papers. The LFLTF reviews how large flexible loads impacts ERCOT peak load to help operate these new large loads on the grid reliably and efficiently. ERCOT expects sufficient generation to meet forecasted demand, the Grid Council said in an email. The LFLTF is working with a broad group of stakeholders to develop proposed rules for how to best leverage these loads to reduce loads on the grid during times of stress, the Lancium representative said. Despite the new slower procedures, the council remains friendly to crypto miners, the Kinnard said. Adding that he hasn't heard anyone at the grid operator saying they are no longer looking to attract more mining to the state. So once again, obviously they want to attract more mining to the state, but we are running out of places to plug it in. So it's not as doom and gloom as the title may kind of lead you to believe. So keep that in mind. It's once again, just kind of take it with a grain of salt. The task force is thinking about Bitcoin miners granularly. In its latest white paper on the large load and resource reporting, presented a meeting on August 22nd, the task force included a series of questions aimed at determining the consumption of Bitcoin miners specifically, such as what cryptocurrencies it mines, what application-specific integrated circuits it uses for Bitcoin mining, and what mining pool it is a part of. Based on miners' answers, the task force will calculate the miners' break-even price, taking into account network metrics such as crypto prices. That data will allow ERCOT to estimate how miners will respond to energy market signals and plan adequate resource for each quarter. And that is really interesting because obviously with the downturn in the market, I think what they're also trying to determine when miners are applying is if they can even pay it off. And that's a big question. It does kind of get a little bit of annoying that you have a regulatory body that is handling that, especially considering the fact that they didn't do such a good job themselves per the winter storm that happened last year. It's not like they are, you're having them approve financial estimates when they are in the most financial trouble of, any other industry in existence right now. ERCOT is basically in more financial trouble than anybody else in Texas at this time. And for a utility, basically a utility overseeing board or whatever, that's pretty scary. And so they're, somebody that's in massive amounts of financial trouble, basically determining whether your financial plan is solid or not is kind of laughable. It's like the homeless guy telling you maybe that you shouldn't, I don't know, buy a drink at the gas station because it's too expensive. Well, while you're, contributing to society and working and getting, I don't know. It's just weird, right? It's silly to me. I don't think that they should be in the position to tell people that if their plan's good or not. ERCOT estimates that 33 gigawatts worth of Bitcoin mining projects planned are waiting for permits, a representative told CoinDesk on Monday, up from 27 gigawatts in mid-June or mid-July. Kinnard said that the number of estimated mining projects waiting for interconnection is inflated because companies sometimes apply twice for the same project. Instead, the TBC estimates about 5 gigawatts of mining will be built out by the end of 2023, and beyond that, it's too difficult to predict. There are now 1.5 gigawatts of active mining projects in the state, Kinnard said. By comparison, ERCOT expects about 80 gigawatts of peak demand during the summer of 2022, compared with up to 93 gigawatts of energy production based on the current and planned resources, according to the council, as cited by the Texas Comptroller. Some of that energy production, however, is located within West Texas. And this is an important point, too. West Texas is far from the population or industrial centers, and with no transmission lines to carry it efficiently where it needs to be, those parts of Texas sometimes get away or sometimes even give away electricity for free because of oversupply. And so it's really important to understand that going out to West Texas is really where you want to be at the end of the day. Not only do you have the natural gas export potential for mining, but you also have this clear, obvious issue of energy waste due to the fact that not that many people live out in West Texas. So where there's plenty of room for solar, there's plenty of room for wind turbines. It's hard to move all of that power out to the big metropolitan areas like Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. So there is like kind of that idea that, you know, where you want to be is probably going to be closer to West Texas. The task force meets periodically to discuss the management of the grid and the new rules being created, such as the registration process. At the last meeting, 50 different issues were flagged for committee review. Most of them were minor procedural type issues, but they still have to be worked through, which takes time, Kinnard said in July. With miners soaking up Texas' excess energy, the grid is working with miners to ensure that there is enough power to cool down homes and run essential services. This process, known as curtailment or demand response, takes place when miners can make more money by forfeiting power, i.e. turning their machines off for a price. They are selling it on the free market for a higher price than they would earn by mining coins. ERCOT sends notices, usually around the hottest time of the day between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m., to miners, which can choose whether to curtail their power consumption. The TBC estimates those events happen around 200 hours per year. These voluntary measures come with multiple benefits, including more reliant, flexible power grid, economic incentives for mining companies, and further decarbonization of the power grid through additional renewable development, Lancium's spokesperson said. Riot Blockchain said it earned $9.5 million in energy credits from ERCOT for curtailing its consumption in July. Of course, we talked about that in a show last week. About 1 gigawatt of mining shut down statewide to support the grid during the summer heat waves so far. For Environmental Working Group, EWG, a non-governmental organization that is part of a campaign to change the Bitcoin code to reduce the network's electricity consumption, this dynamic means that taxpayers are footing the bill. It's interesting. Most of the paused Texas crypto mining operations entered an arrangement with ERCOT that provides robust financial incentives, meaning the companies were basically paid by Texas energy ratepayers to temporarily stop operations. And this is where I really have a problem. Texas energy ratepayers are the ones that are paying these miners, and it's kind of scummy. I mean, at the end of the day, I get it. Like, as being a miner, it seems like a good idea for these large miners to be able to shut off, and then the electric company pays them for it. But really, all they're doing is making the actual consumer of the company or of the energy pay it. And I know this because I am not large enough of a miner to even register, even though I am registered as a miner. For the business and for the LLC, I'm not using enough to I guess, get these programs. I'm not in the right location. I need to work on that personally to see if there's a way that I can get into it. But what we get are these additional weird fees on our home prices, our home electricity, and so on. And part of these fees are literally ERCOT paying the miners. which isn't like, it's not like the public went out and agreed to pay the miners to shut off. So when they're giving these additional fees to Texas, Texas homeowners and so on, or the Texas public, because you don't need to be a homeowner to have an electricity bill, it's a little frustrating. And I don't like that. You should, if that incentive is applied across the board, then cool. If that incentive is only applied to certain industries and certain size industries, then not cool, right? So if you are shut down between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. and they say, hey, turn off your house, if you reduce power consumption by this much, we'll pay you back, then cool. I think that's great. If you're not going to apply that across the board, then I think it's kind of scummy, because all you're really doing is making everybody else pay for it, because they're shooting everybody else's electricity bill up while they're paying the miners to turn off. It needs to be handled a little bit better, in my humble opinion. So in Texas and elsewhere, miners are increasingly looking to build their own power generation capacity, which I think is smart, or work closely with producers behind the meter, i.e. before the power hits the grid. It's not that energy has run out in Texas, Kinnard said, but rather it's that infrastructure needs to be developed to harness it. Luxor's Vera said that he expects to see more mining built in the state, but from more experienced investors. What is exciting about the future is that Bitcoin mining is about to enter a phase where it is significant high impact infrastructure investments being made, Kinnard said. And this does go to the point to where, if we're being completely honest, as small home miners, we're getting priced out, boys. And they are doing this in multiple different ways. And it really is disappointing, because it does feel like if you didn't get to a certain size as a cryptocurrency miner by now, you may not be able to make it. And I'm in the same boat with all of y'all as far as that goes. So don't feel bad. It's just the fact that at this point you have large institutional money, and even like you have basically power companies themselves investing into cryptocurrency mining to supplement, and you end up in a position where you can't compete, right? If the people that are providing the power to actually run the miners are running the miners themselves, then you just can't compete. It's kind of like the same problem of Bitmain and ASICs that we have or have had in the past, where if Bitmain is mining on some super powerful, miner back in the background while it's super profitable, and then they have an unfair advantage and there's nothing you can do about it. Obviously, in the Bitmain case of things, this is why we push for GPU mineable coins. I do think to a certain extent, GPU mineable coins are kind of the answer to, like I said, to a certain extent, because I think that infrastructure will take a lot longer for people to catch on to. However, that being said, we are seeing large GPU mineable firms, or GPU mining firms, so that probably doesn't even necessarily solve it either if you really are just competing with power companies at the end of the day, which is what it feels like. And mining just doesn't feel like it's in a good place right now, especially with the mainnet merge announcement. We do have all the details here. I should have covered it yesterday. That's okay. We'll get it covered today. Ethereum is moving to proof of stake. The transition is known as the merge, and must first be activated on the Beacon chain with the Bellatrix upgrade. So after that, the proof of work chain will migrate to proof of stake upon hitting a total difficulty value. Now, I always get this question where people are like, it's going to get delayed again. Yeah, I'm like, you have to understand that the terminal total difficulty has been set now, right? It is more than likely not going to be delayed. There is a very slim chance it gets delayed. It is more likely that it will move to proof of stake and break than it is that they would delay it. That is how I see it. Now, the Bellatrix upgrade is scheduled for epoch 144,896 on the Beacon chain, and that should be on September 6th of 2022. So we're getting pretty close, right? Like next week, essentially, this is going down. And then the terminal total difficulty Triggering the merge is this long number. Obviously, we've talked about these long numbers before, and that is expected between September 10th and September 20th of 2022. And that is basically it. This is after years of hard work. We finally have a total difficulty, a terminal total difficulty set. It is looking like, obviously, they have a nice little chart here for you guys. We had the Goerli testnet go through good. You have essentially Ropsten and Sepolia that all went through. And then we had the terminal TTD confirmed on August 18th. And we had talked about that, which is the reason why I said we're pretty much guaranteed to go through on here. And then we saw, of course, the announcement for the Bellatrix, which is the latest announcement, which is essentially the last thing that has to be done before you have the final move on the 10th through the 20th, sometime around there. And that'll obviously be determined by the amount of hash rate on the network. So we already saw a huge amount of hash rate hop off of the network due to the 5 gigabyte DAG. We'll have to see if there's more that happens. Essentially, I don't know if more will start dropping off. It certainly doesn't seem like it. It seems like most people are going to mine Ethereum till the bitter end. The bitter end is just coming up very, very quickly. So, prepare yourself. Like I've done, I've, set up infrastructure to solo mine various coins internally to give myself a little bit of an advantage. I have made sure that I've been doing research on overclocks and so on for different coins, etc. And this is kind of where we're at. Now, obviously, there are mining software developers that are working on things too now, finally, with LOL Miner trying to get an advantage for AMD GPUs on other coins like Flux. That's nice to see. But we're going to have to basically go through this bumpy road together and see what happens. It is completely possible that we have to shut our rigs off for a little bit until things settle down, unless you want to mine at a significant loss. Here's the thought behind that, though, just to give you guys an idea. There's a difference between mining at a loss in a bear market that is stable and mining at a loss in a bear market that's unstable. And I point that out because what we're going to run into is a very unstable time throughout September of basically miners moving between different networks, right? And trying to push different networks and figure out which one's going to end up working out. This means that as miners are doing that, your profitability when it is in the negative isn't necessarily indicative of that coin being profitable or actually making you money in the long run if you mine it and hold it, because you're making so little on a coin that nobody knows the actual future for at that time. So it may be smarter to shut down and wait and see what's going on, unless of course you are looking at things like I am, where possibly you end up spec mining a small coin that nobody else is mining and just say, hey, I'll just eat the power bill and I'm going to spec mine whatever X coin for a little bit. And hopefully that spec mineable coin, though, is going to be something that not a lot of people are mining, right? If it's, and this needs to be extremely clear, Casper's probably already out of question there, right? They're already doing, like, I think paying out $75,000 per day in security. Ergo's not in question there. Like, these are the coins that people are going to be moving around between. And I mentioned the smallest one to mention the smallest one, but Casper's not going to be that. Flux isn't going to be that. Ergo isn't going to be that. Ravencoin's not going to be that. Hell, Neox is not going to be that. Because all of these coins that are on what to mine are going to be coins that different large miners are moving between to see if they can generate any revenue off of them. Any of these coins are going to be attacked and moved over to, and I say attacked, they're going to have basically a bunch of hash rate move over to them. And that means that as that hash rate is bouncing in between, you'll become significantly unprofitable. When I say spec mine, you need to go dig deep, like real deep into stuff that is not listed anywhere, that is super small. You need to get into small communities and try to find those. That is a possibility you can get into if it gets to the case to where nothing starts to see any sort of price discovery right now. And it's not looking like anything is seeing price discovery right now. So it's looking like shut down or mine something that nobody's heard of before for the month of September, or probably like end of September through October, right? That's really what we're looking at. Because if we go to, look at like what to mine or whatever it may be, and we throw in the 3090 and calculate that out, that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing basically that, ETH is still at the top and nothing else is really comparing at the end of the day. So just be prepared for the worst, I suppose, is what I'm getting at. That's what I'm kind of prepared for. Let's get into mining profitability for the day, though, because we can only handle what is happening today. And then we will discuss, of course, the mining profitability, etc., after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. And boom. Thanks everybody for hanging out today. I like my new seated position a little bit. I'm a little too fidgety for it, I'm not going to lie. But, yeah. So mining profitability is not that good. We're at 4.5 gigahash a second. That is doing 91 US dollars on the last payout, and then 94 US dollars for the projected. Is what it is. And we got the countdown here says 15 days, 2 hours and 28 minutes, according to the current total terminal difficulty. And if we go to what to mine on an RTX 3090, let's correct the ZIL hash and all of these. These are really 55. So let's make them like actual accurate, I suppose, instead of the 60. Neoxa in first at 264 a day in revenue, $1.85 a day after power, because Neoxa is going up in price, I believe. Let's go look at that real quick. I did forget to check out what Neoxa hit today. I know Neoxa has been on the rise thanks to their proof of game. Yeah, I guess it's up another 12%. So yesterday I think it was at like 2/10 of a penny. Oh, there it just broke 4/10 of a penny. So I think yesterday when we had checked, it was at like 2/10 of a penny, but it's hard to see. Oh, it's definitely real hard to see because it's kind of all over the place. Typical small market cap kind of coin, I guess. You're going to have that bounce around. Same thing you'll kind of see on like Casper, for example, as well. You kind of got to get into trading well if you want to get those kind of profits, right? Ethereum at 254 a day in revenue, $1.77 a day after power. Ravencoin 209 a day in revenue, $1.30 a day after power. Xano at 202 a day in revenue, $1.23 a day after power. Conflux 201 a day in revenue and $1.22 a day after power. Flux $2 a day in revenue and $1.30 a day after power. Cero $1.92 a day in revenue and $1.13 a day after power. Ergo $1.78 a day in revenue and $1.16 a day after power. And if we scroll down, Ethereum Classic is pretty far down here at $1.41 a day in revenue and 64 cents a day in power. And that is unfortunately indicative of like what the ASIC mining community is willing to do to basically keep their rigs online. So this is what I wanted to point out to a lot of people is like the margins for ASIC mining are much, much lower than the margins for GPU mining. And so on networks like Ethereum Classic, where we are going to see a lot of those ASIC miners move over, I think you're going to see much, much smaller margins, right? And that is just because that is the ASIC mining community willing to take much, much smaller cuts. It usually is because the firms that are running these ASIC miners are much larger, and they can actually have basically much smaller margins. It means that Ethereum Classic becomes an ASIC run cryptocurrency that sure could have some more price discovery as all the ASICs move over to it, but the margins will be low like you see on the Bitcoin ASIC front, okay? And I think that means that from a GPU mining perspective, it's not going to be enticing to be on something like Ethereum Classic. That's what I'm seeing. That's how I would interpret what's happening. And it's clear that those miners have moved over. All the A10s have moved over, and they're essentially selling that hash rate, or selling their Ethereum Classic at very, very low prices, and still liquidating and having selling pressure on to Ethereum Classic. And I think that's going to continue. It doesn't mean that Ethereum Classic doesn't go up in price, because I think it will go up in price for more ASICs coming on and more hash rate coming on. But I think that the profit margins for people that are running ASICs can be a lot lower, because I think they have better electricity deals than the typical GPU miner. I think they have much larger firms, right? So they have much more units, much more hash power. So to them, they'd rather still stay competitive, and they can sell, continue to sell it at lower prices than say a GPU miner from his home could. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there as far as what's going on. We can kind of look at that more too when we look at the mining pool stats for the week. 235 exahash a second on Bitcoin right now. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum is at 957 terahash a second. Ethereum Classic is at 46.73 terahash a second. So kind of just been steady. I mean, this is obviously good news that we've seen 7-day history of it just remaining steady. But like I said, I think the margins are going to be much, much smaller, especially once we've started kind of seeing a preview of it with the A10s. And I think we will see that get even worse, right? I think basically GPU miners are priced out on Ethereum Classic post-merge. I just think so. Let's go ahead and take a look at Flux. Flux had still continued to increase. They're, same as yesterday right now, though, sitting right at 2 mega solutions a second. A nice little price increase over the past 7 days of 14.59%. Of course, it was over $1 for a little bit. It's back under $1 right now. The entire market right now is down, though, so it is kind of expected. Let's take a look at something like Ergo. And Ergo is up 5.62% over the past 7 days and is at 15.79 terahash a second. We'll take a look at Neoxa. And Neoxa is at 536 gigahash a second. And of course, it had its price pump over the past 7 days of 181%. So Neoxa is definitely pumping. I think a lot of that has to do with Neoxa Craft and so on. Of course, Neoxa still had that 51% attack. It's important to keep that in mind right now, especially as they're added to more exchanges, because we did talk about the exchange listing or pairing of USDT and Neoxa on Trade Ogre yesterday. So that was important. And Ravencoin at 2.86 terahash a second. No real change there. And I think that's pretty much it. We can look at Casper, I suppose. But Casper's at 61 terahash a second on the network, and 32 of that is coming from pools. So there you go. And its increase over the past 7 days is only 6.44%. So there you go as far as Casper. ASIC miner profitability. What do we got going on? Antminer L7 still under $20 a day at $18.32 a day. Antminer E9 still sitting around $50 a day. If you look at the KD6, it's $11.15 a day. And that is not good. It was under $10 a day though, so seeing it come back over $10 a day is at least a little positive for the Kadena guys. And then the S19 Pro is at $351 a day, so it's back down under $4 a day, unfortunately. Mining pool profitability for the last 90 days, ZET in first, Crazy Pool in second, 2 miners in third. For the last 60 days, ZET in first, Crazy Pool in second, Ethermine in third. For the last 30 days, Crazy Pool in first, Ethermine in second, 2 miners in third. For the last 21 days, Crazy Pool in first, Ethermine in second, 2 miners in third. For the last 14 days, ZET in first, Crazy Pool in second, Flex Pool in third. For the last 7 days, Crazy Pool in first, Hyvon Pool in second, Crux Pool in third. For the last 3 days, Crazy Pool in first, ZET in second, Mining Pool up in third. And for the last day, Crazy Pool in first, Mining Pool up in second, and 2 miners in third. Let's get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated. First to be answered because they're the easiest to read. In addition to that, tagging at Son of a Tech will highlight the message orange, making it easier for me to read, and that is a requirement. If you would like to support the channel directly and with the most amount of revenue that I will receive directly, please check out sonofatech.locals.com. And if you want to help boost the algorithm of this show and you think more people should watch it, you can do that in a few different ways. One is by hitting that share button down below and sharing to your relevant socials. Do you have the most friends on Facebook out of anybody you know? Share it there. Do you have the most Twitter followers out of anybody you know? Share it there. Or are you a Reddit guy and you have an incredible Reddit profile that, you know, you get the most clicks on? Go share it over there. That's what you can do. The other way you can do it is hit the like button, which will obviously promote it in the algorithm, and hit the notification bell so you are notified when it goes live, when we are live, or when we do have a video. That way, you know, you'll get the click and then it'll help the channel out. Finally, if you do a super chat sticker, that is another way to boost the algorithm. The amount of money for that super chat sticker is apparently irrelevant, so 99 cents works. And thank you guys all for that. So let's go ahead and hop into it. Them's the rules. That's what's going on today. I hope you guys like the new perspective. Let me know. Miller Mining Company says, ask Son of a Tech, as far as pricing out the small guy, this is exactly what happened in the early internet days. Yeah, true story. Forever Metalhead, thank you for the 99 cent Euro super chat sticker. And Trading Nickel says, ask Son of a Tech, your new camera angle feels more personal. What's up, baby? How's it going? Detroit Iris says, ask Son of a Tech, does MinerStat or any other mining OS have built-in private switching other than NiceHash? MinerStat does, yes. I believe it's MinerStat. I haven't messed with it though. 3 Mil says, that's Son of a Tech, new cam, looking great. No, same camera, just different positioning while I'm sitting down and being lazy, essentially. Because I haven't been feeling well. We're still sick, unfortunately, but it's getting better. Chadwick, thank you for the 6-month membership. You rock, good sir. Use them emotes. Chadwick says, Son of a Tech has sent a super chat and looks like YouTube blocked it. Interesting. Why would YouTube block it? Real Rigo says, Son of a Tech, this angle reminds me of your videos for 4 or so years ago. Looking good. All right. Trading Nickel says, Son of a Tech feels more personal camera angle response. No, no, no. Amigos PC, thanks for the 99-cent super chat sticker. Ben's 310, thanks for the $4.99 super chat sticker. Remember, you can tag at Son of a Tech with any questions. What time is it? 10:51. Three Mil says, looking great. You play Apex. I haven't played Apex in a while. Right now we're playing Destiny 2 of all things. I've gotten back into Destiny 2. We're playing that over on twitch.tv/blindrun. So there you go. Get the nugget lined up. I don't know about moving it up 2 inches. Interesting idea. I'd like to move it over a little, but meh. JJ Doc says, ask Son of a Tech, what do you tell manufacturers when doing an RMA? Nothing. That it's broken. Anything and everything says, ask Son of a Tech, how is your S10 working out? It overheated or something. I don't know. So I turned the overclock back down. Daniel Hall says, ask Son of a Tech, I hope your energy is improving from being sick. On the light note, any guess of when the first mining farm will hit Back to the Future power usage? I don't know. What's Back to the Future power usage? Was that ever announced? Oh, I think I just need to move the mic from this side to that side over there. I think. Real Grow says, how did you prep for spec mining? You can't really prep for spec mining until you're ready to start spec mining something, and then you got to figure out how to build the node and mine it and all that. Snarks Domain says, ask Son of a Tech, what GPUs are you tentatively considering grabbing if when prices make sense and you have the funds? I don't know. I don't have any power left. I would assume probably like HX1 or like the 170 HXs and stuff though, right? Like hoping like all those big farms sell off. That's what I'd like to see. Miller Mining Company says, at Darren Knows Bush, put Son of a Tech in your comments. You're right about ETH and ETC addresses being the same in the description. Because they are the same. Because that's how MetaMask works, bro. Talon79 says, ask Son of a Tech, does your Casper video still cover everything with their new update? It's going to work on that this week. Yeah, technically it'll all work still. No problem. MineSum10 says, ask Son of a Tech, I noticed member coin was added to mining pool stats as an old project worth looking at. I had never heard of it, and it doesn't look like it's worth looking at. The only reason it was added is because it was added to one of those like pools that adds everything, but it is listed on there on mining pool stats. Digital Fortress Mining says, ask Son of a Tech, no way I didn't know you played D2. I was huge into, don't call it D2. That's Diablo 2, and Destiny 2 is nowhere near what Diablo 2 was, okay? Let's call it Destiny 2. You're huge into Destiny 2 up until about a year ago when you got with your ex. I'm just getting back into it myself. It's been since Beyond Light launch that you've played. Yeah, I just started playing too. I kind of quit in Beyond Light because it was boring. So come on by. I'll be streaming it tonight on Twitch if you want to play. Oh. B Nick says, are you mining Neoxa at the moment? No, it's Kapow. I hate mining Kapow. Can't do it. Won't do it. Have no intention of doing it. Unless it's like really cold outside. Which, I'm in Texas. That's going to be like one day this year that I could be like, oh, we can mine some Neoxa today. 1.12 gigawatts. Is that the answer to Back to the Future power? And we're definitely over 1 gigawatt for total cryptocurrency mining power. Anything and everything says, Ask Tech, should we start looking at money-making nodes and an additional revenue stream, or is there such a thing? I mean, there are nodes that you can do, you can invest in. I'll leave that up to you. That isn't like... You know... I dabbled in, I don't know that nodes are a good way to generate revenue. I'm not positive. They're really finicky. And you could lose a lot of money with it. Mike Lyon says, Ask Tech, can you still use the local host node for Casper, or do you need to do the cloud one? What do you mean? Kenny Woo says, Ask Tech, is it possible to see a new mining coin emerge and be like ETH? Did you hear the cheap ETH, by the way? I haven't heard of cheap ETH, but it sounds stupid. And no, there will be another mineable coin that will emerge. I think it'll probably end up in the long run being Ergo, if I had to take a bet. Detroit Irish says, Ask Tech, I know you hodl silicon, but if you were to start swapping your 5700s for HX170, what price point would you be looking at getting into it? I don't know. I have no fucking clue. None right now. I'm too broke. Snarks No Bane says, Ask Tech, do you have stickers? And if so, who did you use to get them made? We have some, but they're really old. I think it was just like one of those stickers.com places. Village BC says, Ask Tech, do you think Flux is moving towards an almost proof of tech stack idea? They're adding proof of useful work, hard drive requirements, etc. And you earn Flux by making it all available. Well, I mean, like, obviously what they're trying to do is have essentially, they're trying to use people's equipment to compete with, cloud services like Amazon and such. So, the hard drive requirements are because they need persistent storage. And then the proof of useful work part is just going to essentially be like your high powered computing stuff for AI, etc. So that does end up putting you in a weird position to where, we've talked about this with proof of useful work. You aren't going to be running like traditional mining rigs. You're going to have like literally like server infrastructure at the end of the day to build out for like a Flux mining operation. And I don't know that especially if they do proof of useful work, right? Because you're going to need by 8 lanes essentially. So the amount of cards, right? I guess on like an Epic server, you could run maybe a few cards on one because there's enough PCIe lanes. It's just going to be extremely expensive to do that, right? I don't know. Digital Fortress Mining says, my fault, I've always referred to Destiny 2 as D2. Never played much of Diablo 2, but I kind of into the new one. Makes a good time killer on the phone. Oh, that's no. Stop it. We don't talk about Diablo phone game. Daniel Ring says, at Son of a Tech, Robinhood posted they were going to pause the with withdrawals during the merge, but don't say how long. Forever. Indefinitely. Ronnie says, at Son of a Tech, you seem very worried about the transition from ETH proof of work to proof of stake. Not worried, just realistic. Like, the fact of the matter is like, it's probably going to be more beneficial to turn off your rigs and wait until people are done fighting over everything to know what's going to happen, right? $3 million said, I think a majority of the hash rate though is going to go to Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic will have some price discovery, and then it will end up being in a position where it makes very little money per 100 mega hash, you know, maybe like 50 cents per 100 mega hash or something like that, 10 cents a kilowatt hour, maybe even less, right? So Mike, all Casper is going to be the node, and all the UTXO index does is enable the wallet. So like, I don't understand what confusion you're having, or how you're confusing me with your question. I'm not sure what you're trying to, I don't know what you're trying to do. All you gotta do is go run that and then put your miner to it. Port 16,110 by default. Or build a stratum if you want. It's me says, ask Tech, hey, do you know if there are any active Matic mainnet faucets? Don't want to spend $25 on Polygon just to make one transaction of WETH. I don't know. I don't think there are any more mainnet faucets for Matic. It's been a while. I haven't looked them up. Maybe somebody in chat knows. Sean says, ask Tech, are you month to month or under contract at the current location? I am under contract. But it is under the YouTube channel, so I guess I'll just pay the rent with the YouTube channel. Worst comes to worst, right? So, and then I'm picking up a job. I'm trying, at least. I got sick for my interview last week, so I'll be working nights and then still doing the crypto mining show. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I don't know. Well, I've shared all the revenue and stuff with you guys over on Locals. It's very low. We make very little money. You know, it is what it is. Rorgo says, ask Tech, have you ever thought about starting a mastermind for miners? Weekly sessions with 5 to 7 people, deep dives in optimizations, individual strategy, etc. We already do one-on-one calls with people on Locals, and I help everybody out there with whatever questions they have, and deep dives on if they want a deep dive on optimizations, we do it. Chadwick says, ask Tech, sharing my strategy, all GPUs off, CPU mining on. You're going the rabid mining route, huh? Mike Lyon says, ask Tech, thanks. I just was confused with the Stratum video over what I have been doing with my local node. Okay, so all I did was use a VPS as an example, but it would still just be building, if you're building one local, it's the same stuff. And all the Stratum is to help dish out work, right? So like you can still connect directly to the miner, or I mean to the node in the case of Casper. But if you wanted to mine with like LOL miner, you have to have a Stratum. Mine some 10 says, ask Tech, what exchange do you think Casper is trying to get listed on first? That's a good question. I don't know what, I mean, obviously they're listed on Trade Ogre, TextBit, Exhibitron, but big ones, I mean, maybe it's KuCoin. KuCoin would make sense for Casper. I can't think of anything else. It's not like they're going to get a listing on crypto.com or something. Hey, Minor Illusion, just make sure you can become a member over on Locals for free, and those notifications work for everyone pretty well. Sorry you missed the live stream. Turbo Shane says, that's how tech. Do you think the Casper difficulty will drop after the merge? Will Casper difficulty drop? I guess if people are dual mining, it's a possibility, but how many people are dual mining? And will they just go to solo mining something like Ergo? Yeah, it's linked minor illusion. sonofatech.locals.com. We're still trying to get to 800 members. It's been pretty hard, but there's the link. It's where the whole community is, though. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks for watching the Crypto Mining Show this morning. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, it's every day, 9:45 a.m. Central to 10:45 a.m. Central. So if you don't get a notification, you can always remember from that perspective. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below. Thank you, everybody that's been supporting me through the bear market and helping keep us alive. You know, I was able to survive being sick, I guess, last week. Barely. You know, I think YouTube for those days made like negative money, which kind of sucked. If I don't do something, it's really bad now. So, you know, that means that obviously I'm incentivized to do something. But we'll try to keep going as far as all that's concerned. And I think, like I said, like, yeah, I think it's probably going to be easier to just shut the rigs off and wait. What I'm worried about, and I'll tell you again, just so you guys understand, is I'm worried about everything that's on What to Mine that shows any profitability is going to experience testing from large mining firms, meaning that they're going to be bouncing between different algorithms and different networks trying to find if anything works for them, which means that if you're on one of those networks, it's going to tank it. Now, what you could do that might end up being beneficial is whichever that network is first that they test, right? You could watch them test that, and then as soon as they're done, start mining that one because they won't go back to that network. So that is an option as far as that goes. I'll see you next Tuesday.